Hey YouTube, I wanted to take a minute to talk about, some recent drama that went on the internet, which people have been asking me about, but really to talk about the training industry generally, our little corner of the gun community, I suppose. So you probably heard Scott Jedlinski and I had a bunch of back and forth on Instagram. It culminated, which was was juvenile and petty, obviously. But it did culminate in a pretty good hour-long live discussion. That's over at the X-Ray Alpha YouTube channel. Matt posted that live discussion. I like the lives. I think you can really tell. You can tell a lot if it's an hour-long, unscripted live conversation, especially when people are willing to say whatever. But we had some back and forth since. The hatchet has been buried between Scott and I. I think. We had a long phone call. I was pretty mad. But with like this video is the end of it for me. He's not going to say anything else, I guess. On his part, he's going to stop doing what he's doing behind the scenes. I'll stop doing what I'm doing in public. Hatchet buried. That's great. But the live conversation that came out of it, that is good. If Scott changes his mind, I'll assume he'll post something passive aggressive in his Facebook page. But anyway, the hour long conversation I had with Scott, like the core of it was like what was pissing me off was this. You build your training, it's like building a house. Okay? If the foundation's a little bit wrong, like you can remodel the house some, but the foundation's always going to be wrong. The house is always going to be messed up. It's going to be messed up to some degree. And, if you build a house on a bad foundation, the house is always messed up, and you got to live in the house. And that was my view. I told Jen Litsky, I think you should tear down your house and rebuild it. It's, listen to the hour-long live. The foundation is fucked up. He should rebuild it, in my view. So we'll see if he does that. He seemed receptive, so I don't know. There was a lot of stuff going on between primary and secondary, and Pranka and other people. I think fundamentally the problem there is the primary and secondary people. It's like an echo chamber. It's another house built on a bad foundation. So by the time they don't even know what they don't know, and then you'll have Pranka is very nice at first to say, hey, I don't think this VCQB course is going to help you survive a vehicle ambush just based on experience for this, and this reason. This instructor, he doesn't have any experience with this. This would be like me teaching lightsaber classes. Listening to the back and forth between Pranka and Landfair, it was hysterical, but at the same time, it's just like that Landfair doesn't even know what he doesn't know. To argue with Pranka or me by proxy, they had Joel and Nick Young on their podcast, their modcast they call it. And that was very telling as well. So if you go listen to that, the modcast with Joel and Nick Young on it, it's just the knowledge difference is stark. And also it's amazing the primary and secondary guys don't really have much of an opinion. At one point, Joel Park called Matt Landfair a bobblehead. He said, you're just sitting there just nodding your head and it's like, yep, that dude has no opinion because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And when you have Joel Park being that's pretty mean for Joel. When you have Joel doing that, again, you're probably doing something wrong. And I think what's happening here is there's a big group of people that's always growing that just want to be better at shooting. This will be one thing that it works for me is like a lot of people don't care about my personality. They just want to be better at shooting. So they come and listen or that guy's out of his mind, but that was kind of funny, but that's good advice about shooting, that kind of thing. But fundamentally, there's people who just want to be better at shooting. A lot of them. And this is the type of people that I'm attracted to. I'll give you a couple examples. Like Nick Young, he organized Joel and I for a class more than a year ago, and we went there, we did the deal, and he's just like, yep, this idea, this stuff that over here that you're doing, this makes sense, this is a good way to explain this, and he starts changing what he's doing. No ego, no bullshit. He just starts changing what he's doing. Uh, the reason that I hang out with Lucas when I can, I like Lucas Bodkin fundamentally, because a long time ago, Joel reached out to him on Instagram and said, "Hey, you could do this and that better with your target trends." He said it in a very nice way, but he's like, "You could do this and that better." Lucas tried it. Hey, this makes sense. Joel goes and does a class there with him. He's like, "Yep, this makes sense. I'm gonna do what you're talking about." And again, there's no reason for him to do that. He's already very successful. The only reason for him to listen to Joel would be to get better at shooting. And I respect that. So if people want to be better, like that's what we're about fundamentally, is getting better at shooting. And there's a lot of dudes that are selling smoke or wanted to convince you of how great they are. Like the people around me, when we see a better idea, which usually not my idea, it'll be probably Juansek's idea, but when we see a better idea or a good way to do things, boom, we just adopt it immediately. It's like, that's better. It's just clearly better. We'll try it. We talk about it. And in that sense, we're all rowing in the same direction. And then there's other guys, like, again, the Jedlinski example. He built his house fundamentally fucked up, but the marketing is good. So he can say, yep, this is good. So he builds the house. He gets, like, the marketing's good, selling a lot of classes. Good for him. He could remodel the house. Okay. But what he did was he put a gigantic pool in the back to feed his ego. And that pool is draining out into the soccer field for the training neighborhood. And that's really annoying for the neighbors. That's fundamentally what is irritating about him. But that's what's irritating about the whole training neighborhood. See, a lot of people have houses they built and they're wrong. They could definitely be remodeled, maybe rebuilt. There's a lot of people willing to rebuild their house at any time, like some of us are. It's like, hey, if we find a way to do it better, we're going to do that. And then there's a lot of other guys, most people not really interested in that. They're interested, it's the marketing thing is what's important in training. If you look at who's successful in the training community, you got to be LARPing as a Japanese warrior. You can put up a video of yourself shooting at people from a rooftop. I don't know. You could talk about stuff you used to do. And that's how you're going to be very successful. Then a lot of the guys you've never heard of who aren't putting up, they're not talking about crazy stuff or putting weird names on this is my draw. It's called, the tsunami draw or whatever. Like, they're not doing that. They're just like, hey, like this and these techniques, this is what we see is working the best. Let's train these concepts. That stuff's not flashy, so you've never heard of those people. But, it is what it is. The entire training neighborhood is kind of messed up. It's run by an HOA that's full of FUDs. Like the training neighborhood has a shooting range there, which is very convenient. But the Bro Vets built a tower, like behind the berm for the rifle range, like a penis-shaped tower for all the Bro Vets to live in. There it is. They played the veteran card on the HOA. That's how they got to build it there. And now the rifle range is shut down. So you just say, hey, that's kind of inconvenient. You put that there because I'm going to shoot bullets in that direction. But now I'm not allowed to do that because of where you put that tower. And so on. It's frustrating that most of the training industry is not really about training. It is fundamentally about marketing. There it is. That is our frustration. And, I think the people that want to get better at shooting they'll find their audience eventually. It's just amazing that people have to wade through so much stuff like primary and secondary to find people that are actually serious about training and improvement. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Questions, comments, put it below.